Hey, what's up, Unbroken Nation? And so, what I'm curious about, if you grow up in this massively traumatic state, or maybe it's not even massive, maybe you just had some of these things that shifted your identity. But if you're dissociated, if you're hyper vigilant, if you can't tell which way is up, how in the world do you know if you're being inauthentic?
So first of all, I can totally relate to that statement about thriving in chaos. I was the director of a palliative care unit at Vancouver's largest hospital, working with dying people. And the nurses said that working with me was like working in the eye of a tornado. With my ADD and my quick mind jumping all over the place and running from place to place, I get it. And that's because that's all I knew.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all I knew. It's not like I'd had a peaceful life before. My life began in chaos. It began in the Second World War as a Jewish infant under the Nazi occupation. So chaos is all I knew. So that's where I learned to function. So I had nothing to compare it to now. What usually happens is the same thing that I understand happened to you. At some point, you get a big wake up. There's a Greek playwright, Aeschylus, who wrote 2,500 years ago in one of his plays that the ways the gods created us, we have to suffer into truth. So it's not like I had a big epiphany. Perhaps you did from one day to the next. I didn't. But I suffered in my life and my children suffered. And it doesn't matter how successful I was. And so I had to actually ask myself, what is the source of this? So it was a painful process, which continues to this day, of waking up to who I am not and who I really am. And the more I become who I am, the more peaceful life becomes for some strange reason, the more satisfying it becomes, and the less anxiety there is, and so on. But it's a lifelong process. And as you implied earlier, so much in this culture demands that you not be yourself. You're actually moving against the culture. And if you look at the studies, there's one psychologist who studied this, it's the people who didn't identify with the culture who were the healthiest. It also means some friends of yours that are used to your authentic self may not want to stay with you, but you know what? You'll make much better friends who want the real you. So you probably know that game as well. Is that the people that really honor who you are, they'll be on your side. And some people who they want something from you, they want the inauthentic other, they may not be so pleased when you show up as yourself.
Why is it that this is something I've pondered for a long time now, in consideration of now having coached more people than I can count, of watching people's lives transform just through the teachings and understandings that I've had, and finding many of them having great successes. And even I'll include myself in that, obviously. Why is it that some people are able to step into what I'll call a transformational stage of recognizing these very things that you're mentioning, like really calling to attention? I'm not being me, the willingness to go through, do the work, understand, like, yes, this is a lifetime journey when you sign on the dotted line, and then seeing growth. Why do some people witness that and some people it's like, here's everything you could ever need right here, and they just don't take it?
I think there's three reasons. One is they're so identified with the false persona that they're terrified to give it up because that false persona helped them survive as a child. So they identify their falseness with survival, the stuffing of emotions, the pretense, the placating, the pleasing, and all that. They identify with their very survival. And when you identify something with survival, it's very scary to give it up. That's first reason. The second reason is that we've already talked about it. Sometimes you have to suffer into truth, and maybe they just need to suffer some more before they wake
What's
when I want to wake up. And thirdly, and this is crucial, maybe they haven't realized that there's help available. You know, that they don't know how to reach out for help. And I think help from another human being is crucial in this transformation. Very few of this. Really, the reason if people could do this on their own, you and I would be out of a job.
Yeah.
The fact is that it's very difficult, as both you and I know, to do this on your own. We're social creatures. We're wired for connection and contact and communion with others. And we were hurt in a relationship. We're going to heal in a relationship. And so some people just haven't found that healing relationship. And unfortunately, the mental health system and the medical system, the social system is just not designed to give people what they need.
what kind I'd like to go into some specifics here. I have been fond of the word suffering for quite a while now. recognizing at its definition, it's to be in discomfort. And I think all healing comes through discomfort, or i.e., suffering. What type of things do people need to be stepping into to suffer in a way that creates growth?
Nobody chooses suffering. Nobody in their mind chooses suffering. Actually, that's not true. Some people, once they're on the path to truth, will accept suffering as an alternative to falsehood. So that's true. But most of us don't. That's a very high conscious level of choosing of suffering. But I'm going to feel all the pain that's in me because I want to transform. But that's a high level of commitment to truth. So for most of us, it's not that we choose to suffer, it's that we do. So some people, it takes an autoimmune disease or a malignancy or an addiction or a mental health crisis or a painful relationship breakup to say, oh, well, maybe there's something in me that has helped to create these crises. And maybe if I can learn about how I did that, not unwittingly, but inexorably, maybe I can have a different kind of life. So that suffering, we don't choose it, but the real question is, when the suffering shows up, what do we choose? Simply just to run away from it and to get rid of it like a pest, or to actually naturally want to heal it, but at the same time learn from it. And I've had people, this is strange to say, and I don't recommend it to anybody, but I've had people, even with terminal illness, say, Doc, this illness is the best thing that ever happened to me because it woke me up to where I really was. And I get to be myself, at least for a little while, which is more precious than anything I've ever done in my whole life. Now, again, I don't recommend that kind of learning. I'm just telling you that even people at that extreme situation sometimes will recognize the value of their suffering. So what I'm saying to people is, don't wait for the suffering. Noticing now where you're not being inauthentic. Notice every day where you're not being inauthentic and ask yourself why. Or if you do suffer, don't just see it as a problem to get rid of. Ask some deep questions about how you might have unwittingly, based on childhood traumatic patterns, ended up in that situation.